TFA fam, appreciate you rocking with me as always. We are on to week 11. We're going to talk about our wide receiver rankings, the top 36, and some options outside of that if you've got to dig a little bit deeper. Before we dive into it, I do just want to note a couple of things that are going to impact rankings this week, including the weather in the Buffalo game for Bills and Browns, and then the health and status of A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Marquise Brown. The Buffalo game seems like we could have feet of snow potentially. It's obviously way too early to know what kind of impact that's going to have, and if it even comes. Recording this on Wednesday, so obviously we want to pay attention to that. On Wednesday, we also got the news that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams did individual drills, so still not practicing in full or anything like that, but it does put them at least on track to be able to play on Sunday, which would be huge for the Chargers. And then we also got the news hitting today that Marquise Brown has been designated to return off of IR. Again, we still don't know if he's going to play yet or not, but that's another one to keep in mind. And then with A.J. Brown, he rolled his ankle on that Monday night game. We don't have any news on him yet either. So definitely want to make sure we're paying attention to all of that. Just as a reminder, we will go live on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to answer all of your start sit questions leading up to the Sunday game. So make sure you swing through if you have any questions on that. With that out of the way, let's dive into our top 12 wide receivers for Week 11, which are as follows. We have Justin Jefferson at 1, followed by DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, T. Higgins, Chris Olave, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Ayuk, and Alan Lazard rounding out our top 12. Again, not much to talk about here other than the ankle injury to A.J. Brown. He did get in a limited practice today. It was just a walkthrough, so it's just estimated. Don't have any idea if they're going to hold him out or not going into this week. So obviously just want to pay attention to that. Move on to our wide receiver 2 rankings, leading off with Gabe Davis, followed by Michael Pittman, Amari Cooper, Courtland Sutton, Mike Williams, Tyler Boyd, Deebo Samuel, Deontay Johnson, Jacoby Myers, Keenan Allen, Devonta Smith, and DJ Moore at 24. Some guys to talk about here. Jacoby Myers, the Jets have allowed the 5th fewest PPR points per game to wide receivers, but I like Myers in this spot because of his slot usage. The Jets' strength in the secondary is on the outside with rookie Sauce Gardner. Their slot corner, Michael Carter II, however, has allowed the 7th most receiving yards from the slot. Myers is quietly wide receiver 15 in fantasy points per game on the season. He ranks 22nd in target share, 21st in air yard share as well. Not a massive ceiling in this game. There's only a 30.5 point total, but he's a solid wide receiver 2 play. Tyler Boyd going up against the Steelers. The Steelers slot corner, Arthur Maulet, has allowed the 6th most yards from the slot. Jamar Chase is still at least a week away. The Steelers' run D has been solid all year. They rank 7th in rush DVOA, 10th in adjusted line yards. The way you beat them is through the air. They've allowed the 2nd most fantasy points per game to wide receivers, the 3rd most yards to wide receivers, and they are tied for the most touchdowns allowed. Then somebody I am higher on than Kev is Rondale Moore. Again, this is going to come down to whether or not Marquise Brown plays. Marquise Brown is going to impact Rondale Moore more so than he will DeAndre Hopkins. I do think D-Hop sees fewer targets, but I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as it will be with Rondale Moore. But if he doesn't play, Moore's been playing really well the past 3 weeks, 3 straight finishes of wide receiver 16 or better, double-digit targets in 3 of his last 5, at least 90 yards in 2 of his last 3. Zach Ertz is now done for the season as well. We also got news that Kyler Murray could also be held out this week. That doesn't really matter much to me here. Rondale Moore saw a 35% target share last week with Colt McCoy. Moving on to our wide receiver 3s, we have Kadarius Toney at wide receiver 25, followed by Garrett Wilson, Rondale Moore, Darnell Mooney, Curtis Samuel, Allen Robinson, Christian Watson, Josh Palmer, George Pickens, Darius Slayton, DPJ, and Drake London at wide receiver 36. One thing I did forget to mention at the top, obviously we have 2 injuries to watch with the Kansas City wide receivers with Mecole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster. Obviously, if both of those guys are out, I will be moving Kadarius Toney up my ranks. Kev does have him ranked at wide receiver 19 right now. But some other guys to talk about in this range, Darius Slayton, not getting a ton of work. He's only averaging 5 targets per game, but he keeps coming through. He has finished outside of wide receiver 3 range just twice in his 6 games. His 13.8 average depth of target is 13th among wide receivers. Now the Giants get a matchup against Detroit, who ranks 24th in pass DVOA, and they have seen the highest defensive ADOT in the league. Slayton is a nice upside wide receiver 3 play. Let's talk about everyone's favorite waiver wire pickup this week, Christian Watson. I know he's the talk of the town, the soup du jour, if you will, but I'm keeping him in this wide receiver 3 range for this week. I think he's a fine play, but people are talking about him as like you have to get him in as he's some plug and play option. I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit on that. Obviously, the matchup is certainly there against the Titans team that is first overall in rush DVOA, but has allowed the fourth most PPR points per game to wide receivers. I think he's going to be one of these up and down guys. I'm not entirely sure where he's going to be a consistent option for our fantasy teams. George Pickens is a nice wide receiver 3 play this week as well. Saved his day last week with an early rushing touchdown, but now he gets a matchup against a banged up Bengals secondary. You can plug him in as that like wide receiver 3 flex option with wide receiver 2 upside if he can find the end zone. It's not a fantastic week for deeper options for guys that we have outside of our top 36. We can start with Paris Campbell. He's averaging just under 8 targets per game over his last 5. He's a decent dart throw going up against Philly in a matchup where they should be trailing. Devin Duvernay, obviously no Rashad Bateman. Carolina is 27th in pass DVOA. They've allowed the 8th most PPR points per game. The worry here, obviously, Baltimore gets up early and just cruises, doesn't have to throw much. This game opened up with a 5-point spread that has been hammered all the way to 12.5. You're praying for a touchdown regardless with Duvernay, but the Ravens do have the second highest implied point total in week 11, so that touchdown upside could be there. Khalif Raymond, this offense obviously runs through Amon-Ra St. Brown, but if you need a deep dart throw option, I think you can kind of close your eyes and pray here with Raymond. This game has the third highest total on the week. Not concerned with the Giants' passing defense at all. They have allowed the 7th fewest PPR points per game to wide receivers, but they haven't played anyone. 5 of the offenses they have faced are in the bottom 7 in terms of passing offenses. Last but not least, if you are really desperate, Kendall Hinton saw 5 targets last week with Jerry Jeudy going down. Gotten the news now that KJ Hamler is expected to miss multiple weeks with his injury. Denver gets a matchup against the Raiders, who are dead last in pass DVOA, and they have allowed the 12th most PPR points per game to wide receivers. That is going to wrap it up for our Week 11 wide receiver rankings. Appreciate you checking out the video. Hit us with a like and a sub if you have yet to do so. Any questions you have, go ahead and drop them in the comments below, or you can join our Discord, absolutely free. Jump in there, always talking Dynasty, Devy, DFS, betting, you name it, we're talking about it. Hope to see you over there, and good luck in Week 11.